Hey, it's Del Jackson. We got a press break, LLhoops tonight, and we do this annually. And I really enjoy it because we learn some new things, and we learn new rules, and we learn kind of how the inner workings of the LLhoops work. And as we all know, it's a big part of the game. So I got Jay Gallagher here tonight. He's a board member in charge of recruitment. I got Tom Eberly, and he's the interpreter. So he does all the rules. So how you doing, Jay? We'll start with Jay.
Doing well. Thanks for having us, Del.
Yeah, no problem. And Tommy, how you been, buddy?
Been doing great. Great. Again, appreciate LLhoops for having us on. It's always a pleasure.
All right, man. We're going to start. I'm going to start with Tom. So I want to know about the new rules before I write something stupid in my column and say, what in the world was that? Go ahead, give us whatever's new that you can explain on a video without doing the X and O on the.
I'll try that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Del. Really, this year, for one of the very few years, there is nothing major change of rules as far as the players or the fans would come to see. Everything pretty much stayed the same. The one major thing that you might see that's a little different is that they want us to use for all offensive fouls, they want us to use the hand behind the head. So you're used to seeing that.
More of that.
Stop the clock. No more punch. No more punch. They do not want us to punch. They want even an illegal screen. Obviously, a player control. They want us to go right from stop the clock, which is a raised fist, and then hand behind the head. So that's for any offensive foul. So it's a little different. So you still might see a punch from guys like me and Jay who've been around for a while until we get used to just using that signal. So that might be a little something different for some of those fans that truly, for whatever reason, watch us. And really anything else is really just points of emphasis, so any type of screening is a point of emphasis. The pivot foot is a point of emphasis this year. They want to get away from what I want to call the James Harden move, where the players would step away actually from the defender. We haven't gotten into the Steph Curry kick your leg into the other defensive player yet, but I'm sure that's coming down the road. But so this year it's pretty much I'd like to say is a status quo year as far as rule changes. Now, one thing that might be anticipated is that the NFHS, which is the big wigs and the overlining rules for all high school basketball, and then each state can use total NFHS, or they can sort of pick and choose some of the things, but the revelation of the shot clock, the PIAA has not voted on that yet, but it will be allowed. So it'll be interesting to see if the PIAA goes through and votes that Pennsylvania schools will institute a shot clock for high school basketball. Again, that hasn't been voted on, but it's out there and is going to be on their voting agenda for this next season. So we'll see.
I was going to say it's a little late in the season to be putting that thing in,
Right.
And it's kind of weird that one school will do it and another won't, or one league will do it, and then we get into districts, and then you guys got to deal with a district chairman, and then you got to deal with a PIAA, and
Right.
I don't know if they're going to do it. They got to do it. I think point blank. It's got to be. It's not like you leagues pick and choose, because then you're going to get used to a different. I don't know. It's a different game, I think. And I've coached too long. And when I was coaching, I would always say to people, and it happens very seldom in high school, but if I kept a clock on the number of shots, very few teams would run up against a 30 seconds or a 40 seconds. Now, that being said, come playoff time, there's teams that want to, they want to take the air out a little bit and equal the game and make it, every basket counts. And as you guys know in the LL, that's one of the styles that our league uses when it comes to districts. And say how you want, but there's times when And I know the mid-Penn guys and the York guys and the Berks guys, but sometimes, you know, I'm thinking of Hempfield. I'm thinking of some teams that are good at doing that. And most of the people that I talk to are pretty pro shot clock. Me, myself, you know, I didn't grow up with it. I watch this stuff on TV and guys, all of a sudden, I watched a game last night and all of a sudden, you know, it's like, all of a sudden you got a bad shot. It's like, well, you should have had a better shot earlier. I'm like, you know, you teach your kids not to take bad shots. And now you're teaching a kid, look at the clock, 10 seconds to go, somebody's ball screen, and you got to jack something up and hope. So that's interesting. That's good to know. I did not know that. Now, I will say this, Tom and Jay, I think this is really good, because a lot of times when I'm watching a game, they're like, why didn't they shoot that 1-on-1? And I said, because it was a foul, but now they're going to see this. And I think that's going to help people understand. It's like, you know, it was an offensive foul and you don't shoot the sucker. And I think that's a good rule. I really do. Let's, Tom, let's stay with you. You talk about points of emphasis. So what do you guys, what's the focus? I mean, you talk about pivot, you talk about screen, but I mean, let's get a little bit more in the weeds. It's like, okay, what are you talking about pivot? What are you talking about screen? What are you guys supposed to be looking for an emphasis this year?
Okay, well, we'll start with the screen. So anytime a player screens, so several things we look for, did that defensive or did that offensive player have 2 feet on the floor? Basically giving the time and distance for the defensive player to adjust to that screen. So, and is that screener in a natural position? And when I say a natural position, basically the legs are matched up shoulder width apart. Yep, no elbows out. Yep, you have to have your screen, you know, set down. You can't have your elbows like a lineman. Your legs got to be basically shoulder width apart. You know, you don't want any of that. And are you still? So you don't want to swing your hip. You don't want to shift your leg out, try to trip up that defensive player. So those are the type of things for screens that we're looking for.
Let me hop in there, because
I got it.
Again, as a coach or as a guy in media that watches the game, and as an ex-referee, what constitutes time and distance? So in other words, if I'm setting a back screen on a guy, is it 1 step? Is it 3 feet? The guy can't see it. I'm coming up. He's blind. He's coming this way. I'm coming into him. What is the interpretation there? I know it's going to vary, but just give me kind of what we should be looking for.
That's great. That's a great point. If the defensive player cannot see the screen, you want to estimate about a 2-step leeway for that defensive player to adjust.
Okay.
So approximately
5 to 6.
You know, whatever depending on how fast that player is going. A lot of them you'll see, you know, in the press situation or a half court. Yep. So you want to try to give that defensive player a 2-step leeway.
How about I'm setting a screen on the ball and he can see me coming? The guy's on the wing, I'm coming from the top. How much steps do I need to give him then?
As long as you're set and he can see you, you can be as close without making contact as possible.
Okay, so the gray area is going to be that sideways 45 screen where the kid can't see me, or he might be able to see me. That's going to be an interpretation type of thing.
Yep, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
And I want to ask this too, because again, I'm going to put my coaching hat on here. I know different coaches teach it different ways, but are you guys to look for the amount of collision at all? Because I know we used to teach this thing, and as long as we were set and that guy ran into us, it shouldn't have mattered if the defensive guy crushed. And I see that on TV a lot of times. It's like, you know, and all of a sudden the guy goes down and then there's the whistle. Is there consideration given to the amount of force that's contact that's happening?
Right. Hey, another great question. Good leadway. So what we're looking for there is that defensive player can see that screen, and then they make a movement such as lowering their shoulder or sticking their elbow. That's a foul on them. You know, that's a foul on the defensive player. When you go through a screen, I mean, when I've played, I was taught to do those things.
Yeah.
No more. You have, if you go through a screen and you go through it in a normal motion and there's a lot of contact, so be it. It might look ugly, but it's not a foul. But if you as a defensive player want to get through that screen and you give an elbow or you duck your shoulder to get through that screen, that's your foul. That's not a legal move. So that's a great question.
Okay. And then there'll be times when there's nasty collisions and it might not be anything. Is that
Correct?
Yep. I mean, I know that sometimes that happens and people get all upset, and the coaches, especially, as you guys know, I mean, they're like, that guy got crushed. And, I think as long as that guy's set, and sometimes it's a bigger guy running into a little guy, and sometimes they're equal, and it's just, there's going to be a collision there sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. The basketball is contact sport.
Very cool. How about the pivot that you talked about?
Right. So basically what our job is as officials is we got to look for when that player establishes that pivot foot, whether it be it's right or left. So that pivot foot is the one that you can rotate around on. So what we're looking for is if they establish that pivot foot, they can lift it. And then once they lift it, they can pass, they can shoot. But if they bring that pivot foot back down again after they've lost their dribble, then that's a travel. So when they gather, as I call a gather of the basketball, they have to establish one or the other as their pivot foot. So we have to determine, hey, what pivot foot is established, and did they actually bring it up and put it back down? So for example, on that the move I was talking about earlier with Harden, now the NBA definitely is a totally different league and a totally different rule as far as that's concerned. So when he gathers and he steps out that and then he takes 2 steps back, that's a travel. So when you pump fake a player to try to back them up, okay, you got to keep that other foot still. You can't lift that foot and put it back down again, which is a lot of times you'll see on TV. That's illegal. Those are the type of things they want us to try to focus on to the best of our ability, obviously.
Okay. So again, I'll put my coaching hat on, and the way it's taught sometimes. So a kid gets into the lane, he jump stops. Now, does he have either or foot, or you're saying, well, we're looking for what foot came down first?
Okay. So another great question. So in our rule book, there is no such thing as a jump stop as a definition. So how we teach that is if a kid leaves the floor off of one foot, they must land on both feet at the same time. Once they land on those feet at the same time, there is no more pivot foot. Okay, there's no more pivot foot. So if they hop off one, all right, land on 2, that eliminates the pivot foot. They can pass, they can shoot. They cannot do anything else. Now, if they leave off 1 and if they don't come down simultaneously, that is a walk, because that pivot foot was the one that you left the floor with. Does that make sense?
It does. So I'm going to go again. I'm going to go into a situation that happens a lot. Kids dribbling,
right?
He hops, then he gathers the ball, and then he comes down on 2 feet. What's the interpretation? You're saying the kid with that 2 foot landing can only shoot or pass, but he can't take a step and pass, or he can't shoot it off of 1 foot?
Well, you certainly can't. You can't lift and put it back down.
Correct.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and you can see it in the NCAA, and I see it in high school. Is a kid's going, he's getting in the lane, and he takes that last dribble, and in the meantime, he's catching the ball. Both feet are up in the air as he catches the ball, and then he comes down.
That's different.
Okay, that's the one I want to know, because
that is different. That is different. Yes. So what you're telling, that's a different interpretation of when they gather. So if they take that dribble in the air, okay, they're technically not hopping off that 1 foot because they're gathering the ball in the air. So that's different than do they take that dribble and then hop off 1 and land on 2. So there's 2 different scenarios on that interpretation. If the first one where they gather after the dribble in the air, then they do have a pivot. Again, that's all interpretation.
And then when they do have that, I'm going back to that 2 foot thing, because that's taught. I'm telling you right now, that is definitely a taught skill. So the kid's dribble, catches it, he's up in the air, he comes down with 2 feet. Now, can he take like a step layup from there?
I mean, can he put another foot if they gather? Again, it's all interpretation of when they gather that basketball.
Gathered. He's got 2 feet on the ground. Okay, he's 6 feet from the basket. Can he use his left foot as a pivot, his right foot going forward, and then lift the left foot up and shoot a layup without being called for a walk?
Well, that's a good question, Del, because I'm trying to picture that in my mind.
Foot. The guy takes a dribble. He's
Right.
Let's say he's 3 feet away from the basket. He gets in there and there's some trees. He catches the ball. Boom, he lands on 2 feet. Like he's up in the air, lands on 2 feet. He looks up and he says, oh my gosh, there's a big guy there. So now I'm going to pivot. I'm facing the back. I'm facing you. Okay.
Mhm.
My left and my right are still. We came down on both of them. The question is, can I do like an up and under move? Can I step with my right foot and then shoot a layup by lifting my left foot, or would that be called a walk?
That would probably be called a walk.
All right.
Mhm.
All right.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the type of stuff that
Yep.
I need to know, and that's the type of stuff that I think, it's interesting. And sometimes you guys get in situations and it's like, okay, what happened there? And we get in situations where like, Dell will get something. It's like, well, that was a terrible call. I'm like, well, you know what? It's like, I didn't think it was a terrible call. And this is why I don't think it was a terrible call. But, I mean, I know when that thing happens so quick, I'm looking, my kid used to do it all the time. And I just held my breath. I mean, when he was playing, I did, because he always did that hop and he got in a lane and I'm like, what the heck are you going to do now? And then sometimes he got that extra, sometimes he got a step pass, sometimes he pivoted and passed, and sometimes he just shot a flat. I'm like, oh my God, just don't do that stuff anymore. It's
There
like,
you go. That's the easy explanation, right? Yeah.
Let's go to Jay a little bit. Didn't want to cut you off here, Jay.
Oh.
That's quite all right.
Talk to us about what you got going on as far as getting new referees involved in the LL chapter.
So yeah, we've for the last couple of years have done a variety of different things. Usually in March is our big recruitment push, and the PIAA has a program called Start. Students of today are referees of tomorrow, and with that, it's going through the colleges and doing a 3-week, 1 night a week class, pretty much where we go over the rules test with them. Teach them how, give them some information on passing the test, the rules, all that kind of stuff. And then the last week they get, they're given a code from the PIAA to take it. Trying to get younger officials. A lot of times we get new refs who might be older officials and they're great, but if we can start getting some college kids in and working, by the time they're 25, they're younger and they have a bunch of years of experience in. So that's something we've been doing for the last couple of years, really kind of pushing in those avenues. Millersville, Lebanon Valley, F&M, Lancaster Bible, we've had some real good success at different points in time. I think the 1 year at LVC, we had probably about 5 kids go through and do the whole program and come through and do it. And our officials who do it love it, because they get to really just have, like we were having rules questions, like, oh, here's the practice exam, and they're asking a question on, well, why is this, because I think when you take the practice exam or any of the exams, you're always amazed sometimes what you do and don't know. I mean, we get through the PIAA every year, we get the test that counts as a meeting credit, and going back through and I'm like, I gotta think about that one for a minute. So yeah, going through that, we've, the coaches in the league have been great. Anytime we send out information, we always, when we're doing these classes, that we ask them to get it to their alumni, their parents, just anyone who might be interested, because they have far more connections. I mean, we all try to use as officials, try to bring a friend and get a friend to start going and doing it. But our goal every year is to try and get hopefully 10 new officials, because there's always people that are whether they're have to give it up just because they're at the end of their line, or sometimes people just life changes or anything like that, family, work, anything like that kind of impacts people's availability, and they might not be able to officiate. So trying to keep that through. We know, coming up in the next couple of years, we have a good amount of refs who are going to just start, they're getting to the point where they're talking about retiring. So we got to make sure we're bringing in that next generation to really keep things moving.
I'll tell you a quick story. Del loves telling stories, man. I get into it with people. It's crazy. 1978, I think. I was a college student, and we had a refereeing class for 1 credit.
Mhm.
It was pretty cool. We would go to meetings and we would pick the sport we were interested in, and that was pretty cool. I tell you what, it was a great part-time job for a college kid. We have a month off, and then I was getting assigned junior high games and YMCA games, but it was a good way to cut your teeth to get into it a little bit and make a little money without without stocking shelves and stuff, and being around a game that you like. So let me ask you this, because I talked to your signer last year, and you guys had a heck of a time getting refs last year, from what I heard. Is it better this year, or you guys still scrambling a little bit?
I think it's better, obviously, this year, since we are on the hopefully better side of COVID. There were a lot of officials last year who, for a variety of reasons with COVID, that didn't officiate. So that obviously was hamstrung us. I think on certain nights we can be really, really tight, because there's the LL games, but there's other games that are around in the area, especially when people have work and all that kind of stuff. They might be traveling. So I think we're getting better. It's still, I would be willing to bet that most people, and not just in basketball, but in a variety of sports, have no idea how close a lot of times different sports come to maybe being really tight on officials. It's just one of those things that's kind of been, people have known it's coming for a couple of years, and it's starting to get to the headway. And hopefully getting more people to come out officiate will get us on the backside, and in all sports, not just basketball. But yeah, I think that's just one of the things, just kind of keep working towards getting the newer people up to speed in that. That's for a newer official coming in. I think your path from start to varsity is a much quicker path than probably when Tom started and when I started. It took you a lot longer now. You can, if you do really bust your butt and do a lot of the stuff, you can get there quick. And I think part of it is a lot of the trainings that we do, and the programs that we have to help newer officials. That really helps some of them to accelerate quicker through the process. The numbers are like, if you make it from your first year to your second year, your chance of going 10 years is here. If you can make it to year 2, it goes here. And like, if we can get them through 3 years, the chance of that person stays for 10 and 15 years is really high. But getting them sometimes to come back after that first year can be a challenge.
How much crossover is there between girls refs and boys refs? I mean, they're all in the LL chapter. So, I mean, sometimes I'll see a guy that I know does girls games, but it'll be at a boys game. So is there a lot of that crossover? It depends on the day, or does it depend on who's willing to do it?
I think we're all, willing to do it. I think as officials, it's like, hey, we'll go wherever you need. At the younger level, you kind of do both boys and girls as you kind of work your way up. I know my first couple of years doing varsity, I might have a boys game on Tuesday, a girls game on Thursday, a boys game the next time. Which can be challenging going back and forth. I think some people like to do each side, but there's a good group in the middle that just go, especially now where we're needed and what we're doing. You'll see guys sometimes doing JV and varsity doubleheaders, which can be is just doing what we need to cover games so that the players are able to have that experience.
Yeah, I see that a lot. I see guys in the junior high game, and that seems to be junior high game and sometimes varsity game, and if guys want to do that. So let me go back to Tom here. I got a question on junior high and varsity. So I'm a junior high ref, and I'm doing the 2-man crew, and then I got to go to the 3-man crew. How difficult is that switch for in here for the referees?
As far as a younger referee, it's tough because you got to, we always talk about trusting your partner. And in a 2-man crew, you you really got to trust your partner because you can't see as much, and your area that you have to cover on the court is that much greater. Going to a 3-man crew, people say, oh, it makes it easier. Sure, it does. It is easier on the body a little bit. However, your focus is more pinpoint because your area has narrowed now, and you really have to make sure you are staying in what we call the primary area of your responsibility. And then, you just have to let it flow in a way when you're in that 3-person. So, and we always just talk, hey, trust your partner. If that's your partner's area, let them call it. Now, can you go outside of your primary area? Sure. We all want to get the call right. That is the main focus of every guy and gal who referees, we want to get that call right. So when you do your junior high, and you just have to sort of turn the switch, and I a lot of us were former athletes. So you just have to turn that switch when you step on the floor saying, okay, well, now I'm in a 3-person crew. So this is what we have to follow. So for the veteran official, that's why it takes a little bit. It's not so much, everybody worries about, well, you're going to be in the right place or the wrong place. It's about being in the game and getting the call right, and then worrying about the placement. So that's sort of how we try to teach it to our younger guys and gals.
And I think to Tom's point, one thing we've done a really good job, our training committee has, in scrimmages now, we're doing a lot of 3-person. Those younger people get to work a lot, and then they might not have a 3-person game till January. So with our training committee, we have a lot of just trainings that we've done, materials. The summer when that first summer of COVID, we did a whole summertime training series and record them on YouTube and so we can send them to any of our newer officials. They're like, hey, I haven't done a 3-person game, and they can go back and kind of watch them. So I think that's one of the things that we have really built up for them is a good training library. We've been using Huddle for a while, so they can go on and find a 3-person game to watch and just see, like Tom's talking about, where they're supposed to be in that, and it's dependent upon the veteran guys on that crew to make that person feel comfortable. I know when I came up going from 2-person to 3-person, that person's really nervous. And so it's dependent upon the other guys to just make them feel comfortable and talk them through that pregame that helps them.
Let me ask Tom a mechanical question. What you guys call the mechanics? So the referees are always talking about mechanics. So, and I'm not even sure. So let's say I'm in a 3-man crew. I'm on the opposite side on the sideline. I call. I go over to the scorer's table. I make the call. Now, do you guys stay there in front of the bench, or do you just go opposite after you make that call?
Good question. In high school, typically, for the most part, you're going to stay on table side, what we call the table side, where you report the foul. What you're referring to is college rule. College rule is they go opposite the table, but we stay on the table side.
I think the college guys are smarter. I mean,
I can't disagree, but
you just made a walk on a jump stop and you're talking to somebody that's going to chew your ear off for the next minute while you're shooting foul shots. That's pretty good. I like that. But that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's good to know because, I watch, and the thing that I like to do when I'm covering a game, I like to watch you guys communicate. So there's times, and as you guys know, there's like, okay, am I down here? Is this guy taking a ball out of bounds? And you guys, I can tell when the crew's together because they're looking at each other and they're kind of pointing, and it's kind of cool if you watch your referees. I watch them once in a while, not just when they do the block charge and nuts. I don't do that. So not too much. I really don't. Not anymore. The game's a lot easier when I'm writing about it than when I was sitting on the bench. I know that because you always want some things. So let me, Tom, I know you and I talked about this last year that you guys use Huddle a little bit, and coaches will send clips into you and have you evaluate way, maybe they're like me. It's like, I didn't quite understand this rule. And then sometimes it's going to happen. We're going to miss some calls, and that things are going to happen, that it's just, it happens, because the game's so quick and stuff. But how do you deal with that? So let's say I'm coaching, I'll say Penn Manor. I'm coaching Penn Manor. I'm coaching against Warwick. Coach Aldhouse didn't get any fouls called in the second half. And I'm there like, well, how can this be? They're pressing me full court and I want to know what's going on. So if I just send you a couple clips, and that's just an exaggeration, but if I send you a couple clips, a block charge or the jump stop, how do you deal with that with the coach and teaching for your guys?
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I have to give a lot of credit to Jay and his knowledge of huddle and sending clips. And so what we tend to do is if that coach has our emails. So I enjoy that part of it where a coach will send me a clip or send me a couple plays and just ask my opinion. And then what we try to do is from those clips, we have meetings, typically every other week. And with, the one benefit with the Zoom meetings is I can sit and I can bring up the clip and we can look at it as a chapter and we'll talk about it and we'll say, okay, hey, what did you see? And it's not to criticize anybody because we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes, but it's a great teaching tool to say, hey, this is what we're looking for. Or maybe, for example, I should have been a couple steps down to see that play clearer, or, hey, I did get that wrong. Next time I know what to look for in a better situation. So the advantage of huddle and YouTube and the coaches sending us clips and we have great coaches throughout the LL League, but that's part of the game. They're trying to benefit their team. They're trying to fight for their players. And we all get that, and rarely does it get, past that. Sometimes it does, but that's part of the game too. Sometimes, coach, who knows what they did, earlier in the day. They just had a bad day and they just want to, for whatever reason, it happens. And just like as officials, we have bad days. That's how life works. So, the availability of games on YouTube and the taping has just benefited everybody, especially us as officials, because, obviously we don't have the technology of the NBA or the NCAA, but, it's pretty good that what we can view and yourself included in there that can throw things out there on Twitter or on YouTube, and we can even pull off of that. It's just been a great resource for all of us. So
the 9:05 p.m. emails are very few and far between, but they do come sometimes. Tom and I'll joke, we'll get an email at like 9:05. I'm like, I think they typed that from the bench.
On that one point game too, what I'm saying? Like, okay, did the buzzer go off or did the clock go off? Like, was the 0 on the clock or did the horn go off? It's like you guys had that play a couple years ago, and boy, yep. You had all sorts of tape on that, and people were pretty good on. I mean, they were fired up, but it was good. I mean, it was good because I think in the end it worked out. The call was correct. Let me say something to both of you guys that I noticed. Our league compared to maybe the Mid-Penn and the Berks. Pre-game for you guys, and I know it's serious. I always go up and, yang, you guys try to get you to get off that game face a little bit. It's like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, hey, how you doing? It's like, hey, I'm supposed to be counting these players here. Go away, It's like, but I think, here's what I see that I think is pretty cool. So number one, you go to some gyms, Tom, and Jay, you go to some gyms and the dang guy that's sitting in the front bleachers and he's going to bitch at you the whole night, but he's like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And then it's like, boom, 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 boom. But I think that's cool. And I think our guys, our LL refs especially, are cognizant of people and talking to people and kind of breaking that ice. I know some of the older veteran guys, they'll go over to the student section. I'm thinking of Rick. Rick does that all the time. He'll go down there and he'll yak with them because he knows, it's like, but he has fun. And that's a good thing. And then I think overall, like Tom said, overall our coaches are really good. I mean, they have their moments, but I think overall we're not seeing bang bang. We're not seeing that stuff. We just don't see it in our league very much. I mean, every once in a while a kid will go nuts, but usually it's not a coach. Usually it's not. And I don't know if it's the bench rule where you got to sit down after the tee, or it's like you guys are going to turn their name into the principal and they're going to get in trouble. You know, I don't know. Let me ask both of you. It's like, did you guys give any tees out to coaches last year? And if so, did you fill the paperwork out? I'll start with Jay.
I did, but you only have to fill the paperwork out after you give two of them. One requires zero paperwork. Two requires the paperwork. So, but yeah, I mean, sometimes, and you know, it's
two in the same game or just
two in the same game. So when you eject someone, you have to do the paperwork with PIAA. One can just be, sometimes it's game management. Sometimes it's, you know, I mean, you know, from coaching, sometimes you get one to fire up your kids, and sometimes it's one where, you know, it's just a bunch of, might not be one specific thing. It's just over. But yeah, and I think, you know, like you were talking about, it's that dialogue throughout the game, you know, and I think that's what helps the coaches. We talk to them, they talk to us. Like Tom's talking about, you know, they know if they email us something afterwards, that conversation during the game carries on through. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think if you know, just like a coach, there's very few of them ever say that they've never gotten one. You know, very few officials. There's always at some point someone's crossed that line, and that's where you know, you do it. And like you said, they hit their point, and then they calm down, and you know, sometimes they'll apologize, sometimes they won't.
Yeah, well, no, man. So same thing. I'll say this. Same thing as a rep. Sometimes they'll say I missed it.
Yep.
Sometimes you ain't gonna hear nothing from them until the next game. All right, Tom, how about you? Did you have to hit anybody, a coach last year or not?
I did not have any coaching tees last year. So a few players, but no coaches. You know, to Jay's thing, it's a rarity. But you know, just like Jay mentioned, sometimes a coach, you know, they're going to push us because maybe they want to get that coach. I mean, their team comes up a little bit, or they're protecting their player, rightly so.
Yes,
they're protecting their player, and you know, but like you said, you know, that communication and Rick Dissinger, who you're referring to, you know, those things are great, you know, because you know, they see us as human. Then, you know, a lot of people see us in black and white stripes, and they think we're, you know, non-approachable. But if we can be approachable at the right time, granted, there's sometimes, you know, we can't talk, you know, and we'll get, you know, hopefully we can do that quick communication, but there's nothing wrong with that, you know, there, in my opinion. You know, I've
watched you a lot. You're over there talking sometimes like he's missing the plays over there talking to it's like no wonder he's not giving him any tees.
Hey, I think the mask helped last year because the coach could mount a lot of stuff in their mask that we didn't even hear or see.
There you go.
Hey, that's a good question though. All right, so we got masks in some of the schools. The players don't have to wear them. I'm assuming the referees are optional as well. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes. You know, we, as far as the mask, it's, you know, we follow whatever that school district's policy is. And, you know, the majority of schools that we have found out at this moment in time, masks, you know, if official wants to wear a mask, that's fine, or a player, but they don't have to. So,
right. Yeah, I think, and you can help me out there, but I think the PIAA says players do not have to wear masks, but the schools, you're working in a school, I'm kind of part of a school here, and each school is going to have different rules as far as their fans and stuff. But
right.
I'm assuming game management this year, it's like we're going to see kids without masks, and we're going to see referees, and there might be some referees that wear the mask for various reasons, and people, you know, that's the other thing is people might not know that the guy's got some sickness and he doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't want to get sicker because he's had some stuff going on, or he, you know, he's susceptible to stuff that's going on. So, all right, I think that's going to be. We were up to PIAA this year. We didn't get press credentials this year. They didn't give a lot of press credentials, but I was working for another network, and there was a couple of schools that had no mask, and we're like, whoa, what's going on? And it's like, there was some sort of rule where the school could write a thing and say, we're not wearing masks and we're not holding anybody responsible. It was the dangest thing, because I didn't see it here in this league at all. And I didn't see it in the districts. And then we're in a state championship game, and I'm like, one team didn't have any masks, and the other team was looking at them and like, next thing you know, their masks were here. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me hit on maybe one or two more things, and then we'll call it a night. Let me ask about district games. So how does District 3 assign games? When I go up to Hershey and I see some of you guys at some of the games, and obviously the LL guys work together and the Berks guys work together and the York guys work together, and the Mid-Penn guys work together. But how is it determined from our chapter who gets those games? How does that work?
I'll start. So what happens is each year we rate inner circle. So our officials association rates each other. So it's all peer ratings. And then those ratings, I believe for districts, it's, I don't know the exact number. I think it's 30 guys get submitted for the district. And then the district representative, who happens to be Bill McHale, who is a football official and former basketball official. He is the District 3 representative at this time. Then he assigns the groups of referees, whether they be from our league, the LL or Berks or Mid-Penn, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty neat that your peers are the ones who rate you, and that's how you earn a assignment at the district level. And then as far as states go, that's totally different. That's the PIAA. They assign, so they take the recommendations usually of
The district.
of the district rep or something to that nature, and it's Pat Gebhardt who's in charge of the PIAA as far as officiating, and he comes to a lot of games. He lives in York County, but you'll see him at several games evaluating the officials that he would like to use at the PIAA then level. So
let's say our LL guys got a first round district game. Do they stay together as a group if they get other games, or is it's a mismatch of crews? In other words, is Jay and Tom going to be working as a group with somebody else, going all the way, Rick Dissinger, going all the way up to whenever they stop assigning you guys games? Or is it a different crew each time?
typically it's a different crew. There's times where you might stay with one guy. I remember, myself, I stayed with actually Ken Spence all the way through. But a lot of times it's a mix and match of guys in the district level. And then we've all worked together, so that's the nice part. But then by the time, you just might get one or two from different places, just depending on the games.
I got a quick story, district story. You'll like this. So I like sitting down in the left-hand corner right next to the Mr. Referee. And then all of a sudden there's like 8 referees there. And I'm looking like, well, what the heck are these guys doing? That's the guy that's assigned. And I always ask the guy question. It's always funny because you know how it is. The tables are there and then you got 3 referees. And in one game, I think it might've been Pat Ross. It was somebody I knew. And they would not talk to me before the game. And finally I said, look, I got the head guy here, sitting right here. He's not going to gig you for saying hi to me. So let's get over this now. Come on. They were laughing. The head guy was laughing. And I'm like, come on, let's go here. Give me a fist bump, do something. It's like, I'm not going to holler at you.
That's funny.
Oh, man. All right. Let's end on this. The most difficult gym to referee in. I'll start with Jay. In your opinion, the hardest to do a game in, LL.
Columbia is hard because on the one baseline you really can't get deep. Catholic's hard on both baselines. You can't get deep, but you're wide on the sidelines. Columbia is really narrow coming down the sidelines, especially when they're you're on the bench side, and then that one wall you're right there, but the other one you can get deeper. But the cool thing there is it's usually a really good packed house most times you're there. But I think any place where you feel really confined, for me, I'd like to get deep and have good angles. So when you're tight on the end line, it's tough.
Tom, what about you, buddy?
He took mine. Yeah, both those gyms are great atmosphere. Both those gyms are great atmospheres, as Jay said. They're a lot of fun to work in those gyms. It just makes it a little bit challenging sometimes. Another one that I haven't worked a lot in because my son played there was Manheim Central. I always thought that is a tough gym because the one wall is short. You can get deep on the one end, but it's sort of a weird setup. But now they're renovating, so who knows what the new one will look like. But that I always thought was a tougher place.
Plus, you had that random line on the one end that it was halfway through the lane. That it was the same width as the out of bounds line. If you didn't remind yourself it was there, you'd have an inadvertent whistle or two.
Yes.
In the end zone too. So that's where I sit when I go to a game. I can talk to the refs and I can take pictures. And hey Tom, how about we got the Mid-Penn LL thing at Central, and it's going to be at the elementary school this year. Is that going to be their new home gym or just for this year?
Just for this year, from what I went. At least I should say until the high school has done their renovation. So I believe it's just for this year. So that's what I've been informed of.
And I'll throw this out. I throw it out every year. It's like we would welcome a play of the month or a play of the week or something that happens. If you guys ever want to send that, I got a page up for you guys, and I would like you to look at it, and because I got old information, I'll post up whatever you guys send to me on your page. I mean, if it's like we're having a clinic, click this link. I know you guys got your own website, but it's like. Yeah. LLhoops got a little bit stronger following than you guys. I'm just saying it's not anything.
You're right.
But people come to us. So anytime, seriously, if we want to do, I know way back when, and I don't even know the guy's name. He did Joe something up at Lebanon. He did something for a Lebanon site up there, play it a game, a week or a call, or somebody would write in. So if you guys want to do that, talk amongst yourself. Just let me know. I'll put it up. And I know you don't want to. I look at it like education. So that's why I have you guys on tonight. I want to know, what's a walk? What are you guys looking for as far as a walk, as opposed to what our fans are looking for? So if you guys want to do that, just let me know. I would love to do that. Not open it up. I'll tell you another thing. This is our 22nd year for LLhoops. 22 years, and I did it while I was coaching at Donegal. I did it while I was coaching at E-Town, and I did it right after I was done at Penn Manor, first time head coach thing. But here's the thing, which we talked about a little bit earlier. It'd be different for you guys, but I have a comment section on any page. So any page that we do. So if I do a game, Cedar Crest and Lebanon, and I'm writing, and somebody doesn't like the way I do it, or whatever, they can write a comment. Now, here's the cool thing. That comment doesn't show until Dell says, okay. The guys that work for me, that write with me, they're like, we can't do this. We can't do this. You're going to get negativity, and, it's going to be awful. So I've had probably in the last 10 years, 2 negative comments.
Wow. Yep,
2. And a lot of times they'll say something to me like, well, you have this kid's name spelled wrong, or, what are the LL playoffs, and, good stuff. I mean, it's a place where people can come to me and say, hey, what's going on? Or they'll say, what's the schedule next week? And I'll say, I just go to my website. But that being said, I don't get a lot of negativity from our fans, which I think that says a lot for our people, number one. Now, I did have some garbage on the live stream, and that bothered me. So we opened up, there's a chat section that during the game, people can write in while we're filming a game. Mm-hmm. You're not monitoring that. That's not good. So I don't think that's going to happen this year, because I had some, actually we contacted Twitter. We got a couple people kicked off for a while. They were put in time out for a while, but I don't think we're going to do that this year. But what I'm saying is, all in all, if you guys want to do something like that, there won't be any negative blowback to the refs, because everything's going to come to me first. So just an idea, if you want to use that, or even as you guys progress, if there's something special coming up, if you have a special, I don't know, I always like when you guys do the banquets and stuff for your refs at the end of the year and somebody gets an award, stuff like that. I would love to put on my site because you guys are a big part of what this whole thing makes up. The coaches, the players, the ADs, the scorekeepers, and all that. I plan on talking to some of the veteran refs coming up. We're doing a book. I don't know, Jay, if Tommy told you, but we're going to do a book of 50 years, and we're going to. The way I am, I'm going to put some of the refs on, and I'll give them some free reign. We'll do a Zoom, and I'll say, okay, go ahead, fellas. So anything that you guys have for me before we say goodnight?
Some of those names that you had there on Tom's thing, I mean, those are guys that can tell some stories and have some knowledge.
Yeah. Tom, you got anything?
Hey, it's awesome. I look forward to seeing that book. There's a lot of great history, as you know, probably better than pretty much anybody, of LL League basketball. Should be very interesting. I just want to thank you again for all you do for the kids, especially. I mean, that's what it's about. And like I said, I know it's been mentioned many times, but the kids at the LL are very lucky. So thanks.
Del, I know you as coaching, and especially at the younger levels. I mean, the same thing when you're watching the junior high or a JV game. I mean, those are kids who are still working their way up to varsity. I think a lot of times parents and that in the stands forget that those officials down there are the same. Yes. They're cutting their teeth and they're working their way up. Some of those junior high games, they're not finished products, and they're still working to become that. And those are some of the ones where they might have a bad experience, and our job is to help them through those experiences and just keep improving them so that when they get up to the varsity level, they have, I always tell people that, there's no substitution for working. You can go to watch all the videos and the trainings we do, but you just got to get out on the court and experience the good, bads, and the indifference of reffing.
I'll tell you this. I coached junior high in Penn Manor off and on for 5 years. And I found those games are the hardest games on the parents and the kids and the refs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different atmosphere. It's not a big crowd. You can hear the dude in the corner just screaming and hollering. Sometimes he's screaming at the refs. Sometimes he's screaming at the coach. Sometimes he's screaming at the players, and guys are getting in the huddles. You turn around and say, yo, what are you doing here? Oh, my kid needs, and I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. No. You're looking around. It's like, when you guys do a varsity game, you can look at the cop and just go, hey, get that guy there. And I've seen that happen without making a fuss about it. And, the referee will point to the AD or he'll point to the, it's like, you got to go. That guy, he got to go. And I've seen that happen, but I'm telling you, junior high game, if you got a trainer that wants to help, you got all hands on deck. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll put this up tonight, and good luck this year. I'm looking forward to the tip on December the 10th. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Al. See you guys.